Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone Show this evening.
And a pleasant afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are in this wonderful world. I'm Rob Starr, along with this wild person that I know named Toro, who is one of the greatest co-hosts we've had on the show, and we appreciate her. Tara, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm super excited to be here today, and I think today is mostly going to be talking about the weather.
Yeah. For our listeners, just to let them know, we've had some technical problems connecting into the station. Not the station's fault, but our end. And I got people coming over tonight, some IT software specialists, and hopefully they'll resolve everything, and we'll be back to normal and broadcasting a little better with that new equipment. So thank you for that. Hey, Tara, I just want to ask you a question here, because I was talking to one of my friends who's a water lawyer, and he's out in
careful, those water lawyers.
Yeah, I know. And he's in New Mexico. We were talking about California issues, and I said, I got a person who knows lots of stuff because she works for a water agency, which is you. And so I took some notes, and he was saying, in California, the state's faced with ongoing water supply challenges. Access to water, and it's critical. And California's working lands, $50 billion driver of the state's economy, and needs access for irrigation and drought reserve, which is a big deal. California's growing population, he said, relies on water supply for safe drinking and sanitary systems. We agree. And both of the needs must be weighed against the need for protection and conservation of California's natural resources, including the rivers and streams and other habitats that support birds, fish, and other wildlife. So given the demands, because he was talking to me about this, that the role of California water policy is very confusing, complex, and controversial. You're going to be the one to tell me that's true, because I know it is. But California faces a constant barrage of opinions, arguments, assertions of facts about water that everybody makes comments, just like watching the news on television. Depending on what station you listen to, you hear a completely 180-degree story, which is different. So making sense of that competing claims is extremely difficult. And he finds that accurate information on California water issues, can be a whole lot better than it is, but it's not. What do you see in your world of water? Do you see this conflicting statements, there's conflicting issues? There's always lawsuits, so it's keeping the waters very, very well intact financially. But what do you see?
So I see that there's always somebody trying to regulate something, and it doesn't always agree. And then when you do finally get consensus, the goalposts change. Things are constantly evolving, so you're never ahead. You're never, you have these new constituents that emerge, so you think your water's fine, and then turns out, boom, you have PFAS, or, you have hexavalent chromium, or, you don't have the water rights you thought you had this year. 20 years ago, there was such a thing as a 100% allocation. And now it's like, it's 30% allocation. I'm so excited. We're going to get the water we desperately need from the State Water Project. And so you're always behind. You're always behind whatever it is. And there's always a money issue that's involved. There's always some sort of funding need. We like to make things safer, but then we don't like to acknowledge that making things safer requires more financial backing. So there becomes this just generational unfunded mandates where we're paying and we don't even really understand why. It's not super clear. So we just end up funneling money, and then we don't totally connect that money to either increased safety or increased availability or increased reliability. It's just money out, and then you're hoping that next year we don't have things like what happened to Las Virgenes, where, they definitely have invested in their infrastructure. They've definitely done things right. They've definitely made all the alliances and partnerships and collaborations that they need to make. And then suddenly, no, you don't have any water this year. Good luck. And you're you're floundering because you've really relied, you've built your system on the state water project, and now you get a 0% allocation, and you're going, what am I going to do? Fortunately, we keep being lucky, but at some point, is our luck going to run out? And those are the things that keep me up at night.
It almost seems like we can identify what the problems are, but there's so many of them. And I don't know. Yeah. I always ask this once time. I asked Wade Crowfoot, who's a really great guy. I like him a lot. I won't say we're best of friends because I don't know him that well. I just know him professionally. Well, I'm being honest. But I mean, I would vote for the guy, even though his position doesn't need a vote to get into what he's doing. But he's a really smart guy and a really common sense he brings to the table for natural resources. And, I always ask, does somebody sit down and make a list of the 10 top problems that you got, or a list of all the problems that you got, and then somebody or a team of people characterize those into this is the biggest issue we got to deal on water. This is the second one we got to do. This is the third one. I know they want to try to fix everything at one time, but that's difficult because you lack money, you lack people. So those are the challenges that they have. But I just maybe I don't see it. I'm not privy to it. But I've been asking this for 25 years. Who has a list of what the most important thing about water is for California? For example,
that would require everyone to agree on what those are. I mean, that's the main issue. Is you have all of these things going, kind of sideways, and in terms of cost, in terms of protection of species, in terms of water quality, in terms of reliability, in terms of our food costs going up because the water costs go up. So you have all of these things, and that's not even getting into the nitty gritty, like, Delta Conveyance Project versus tributaries in Tuolumne County versus, kind of the Steelhead versus, that's not even getting into that. Just those 5 major categories, we can't even all agree on, like, number 1 is making sure everybody has access to water. We can't, there's zero agreement on that.
And clean water.
Right. But, you just added another priority.
Yes.
Right there.
You're right.
And that's the point, is every time you try to go, okay, if the first priority, for example, is everyone has access to water, not necessarily the cleanest water, but they have access to some form of water. Then you go, okay, now we focus on the quality of that water. Now we have to make sure it's at a certain level. Like, you could do that. However, during the time that you are transitioning, you are making a decision, you're making a moral decision on these people who only have access. We've made sure they have access to water, which was, quote, better than before, maybe, but maybe not, depending on the quality of the water. Like, you're now compromising their health in that time frame that you're now switching gears to quality. And if you're doing that, you're now sacrificing an entire, economy segment in agriculture, which also impacts the health of individuals. So you're still impacting people's health because now we can't eat safely, we can't have the food that we need, and you're killing an entire economic segment. In addition to that, what happens to the environment? Now we've made sure that everybody has water, but at what cost to our biodiversity? At what cost to the watersheds? At what cost to our groundwater tables? At what cost to the subsidence issues that we're facing? At what cost to future problems that we're creating by pumping out this water? So the real thing about water is that at the end of the day, it's about that balance, that critical balance of finding the best of all possible worst case scenarios. Right. Every scenario is the worst case.
Well, you look at climate change, for example. There's, for the Sierra Nevada mountains, they have record heat sizzled away the snow. And what's going to be prepared for the head? Then you read, Los Angeles storm could dump feet of snow, make travel difficult to impossible. So you got one side and then the opposite side. And you got to prepare for all of that. And I know it's a
And
tough
as the
decision.
weather gets more and more severe, I mean, we're talking literally about a late-term snowstorm right now.
Yep.
So the Sierra is going to make travel almost impassable in April. What's that going to do to our snowpack? Possibly nothing because it's so hot. Like, there's no predictability. And then you kind of look back and you go, has there ever really been predictability, or have we just kind of safely focused on the things that we can, the patterns we've identified? Not every El Nino has been dry, not every El Nino has been wet, but we still rely on those things. And Chris was talking about that 2 weeks ago. And now we're looking at this like super El Nino. And what does that mean in terms of the atmospheric rivers we've been facing? I mean, we've got a storm coming this weekend, and I can't even get a prediction on when, if, how the rain's going to be. And we have all these super sophisticated tools and resources, but we're not able to leverage them in order to even plan, a day outside.
Yeah, it makes it tough. And, then with the storms that come, then we start talking about the issue of what do you do with the runoff of water? Where's it all going?
Right.
Do we need more storage for that? And like I said, it's not a simple task to grasp with this thing. But I don't know. For me personally, I've always wanted to see a solid plan that take care of the top ones, and when you solve those, then drop down the list and go going. Because again, it's a people issue. It's a money issue, especially in California, because you guys are pretty over budget. and I'm not picking on that, but that's the reality of it. You only got so much money you can spend, so much people that you can hire and have, and then with all the problems, which one is really important? Like you said, the number one thing is people getting access to water. I think that's totally agreeable. And I've always thought in California, or anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, I think everybody deserves to have not only water, but clean water. I mean, there's places in California and in Michigan and Florida and Louisiana and all these other places that have water that's really, really, you can't even drink it. And sometimes you can't even do anything with it except just let it run down the drain when you turn the faucet on because it's brown. And it's a scary thought. Mississippi, a while back we had a thing about Mississippi. And I was in tears on listening to that show as we were doing it, because this poor lady said, when the water came clean, she'd have to fill it up in her bathtub to keep the clean water. When the water was brown and dirty, she just had to let that go. And she was afraid of cooking it. She was afraid of drinking it, bathing it. It's scary. And now with what we see in Arizona here, looking at what the allocation is going to be for Arizona with the Arizona Central Project, they're going to cut a bunch of water. I mean, big percentage-wise, people are going to hurt. And I don't know. And it's not just a one-state issue. It's all over the country that's got problems with water, whether it's clean water, dirty water, lack of water, polluted water, PFAS in it. It's fascinating to know all about it. But it just doesn't seem that fixes are coming in fast enough. That's my opinion.
Well, and I'm telling you right now, there are people who do not feel like the access to water, to reliable water, is as important as the biodiversity that is required in order to sustain what they feel like is sustaining human life or sustaining the world. Like humans are not as important as the world as a whole. That's just, some people's belief, which is totally fair. And with that idea, though, then comes, well, I understand that these people don't have water, but the greater good is actually bigger than humans. So there's that sort of mentality as well. I get what you're saying, but I'm telling you right now, there are people who would not agree with that statement and would sue on behalf of whatever it was we were compromising in order to make sure that those people had water.
Right. No,
and that's where things get expensive.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. I've been through this for the last, 30 years. And I don't have the answer to it. I don't. I listen to people. I ask questions. I got smart people like you to tell me things that I need to know, and that's important. And I think education to the world, or to getting it down to even the local thing, is really, really important. I do commend all the water agencies that I've worked with, whether it's in California or across the country, who really do a good job trying to educate and give information to their constituents. And that's an important factor, because if you don't know what's going on, people take what a statement says on the television or radio and they blow it up 200%. And all of a sudden, it's a crisis, or it's solved. One of the two. But I think that mechanism is always going to be around. I don't think we can change people except to let people know where to go get good information and fully understand what it is before you make comments, because that's the way it works, at least for me. So how do you see, you got storms that are predicted this weekend, I understand. Is that correct?
That is correct. We do have some storms predicted this weekend, which is, a little unfortunate, because we participate in this thing called Ventura County Farm Day, where we actually invite, so the entire county invited to go visit all of these different farm locations and really explore the resources available. And we're, of course, part of that as a irrigation water provider and also water supplier for pumpers and farmers across the county. So, and now I'm like, is it going to rain? I mean, we bought ponchos, so it'll be a rain or shine event for sure. But I've never been like, just not this weekend. It could be next weekend.
Yeah. No, I've done the same in my career when we had events on the weekends or even weekdays, and you go and it's raining and you gotta do what you gotta do, and and then people come and say, "Well, look at all the water that's running down the street. What are they going to do with it?" You always get a negative thing to something that's positive, and vice versa. Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough. Like I said, talking to my lawyer buddies in New Mexico, it was pretty interesting. They're going to come on our show and talk about produced water and the legislation of what to do with the produced water that's cleaned up, and can it go back into being for drinking water instead of agriculture or something like that. So we're going to have them on in a couple of weeks to talk about what they're doing. They're pretty big guys in the state, and one was a prosecutor, one was on the other side. So it's going to be interesting. It's like a frickin' frack conversation we'll have with them. But they're going to talk what's happening, right? Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to do that. They're working with the New Mexico Produced Water Consortium, which we've had on the show several times. We're doing a big series on them all year round. So that's going to be really interesting to me, and looking forward to that. So I'll keep everybody informed about that. But I think we should take a short break, and then we have a guest. I think he's connected, and we're going to talk about some technology that does stuff for water that's pretty unique and different. They're doing a lot of testing and things in the ag world, which is important, and back on the human side for residential. So that should be a great conversation. So stick around for a couple minutes. We're going to just take a quick break, and we'll be back with our special guest. And stay tuned with us. You got to stay with Toro. She's a lady to follow. So we'll be back. I give you comments. You're good. I enjoy working with you in this, and a lot of our listeners make comments about you. They love hearing you, and from as a different perspective where I come, because I never worked for a water agency. I've always been on the techie side and the development of products and things of that sort, and so it's a good combination. So we'll be back. Stick around. We'll take a couple words from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
This is KCAA.
Take control of your business anywhere, anytime with the SiteOne mobile app. Designed for contractors on the go, The app keeps you connected to your account wherever the job takes you. When you're signed in, you get full visibility into your personal account without needing a computer. Check your contractor-specific pricing, see real-time inventory, create custom lists, and reorder from your product history or saved lists in just a few taps. Scanning QR codes makes managing products even easier. You can quickly add items to a list, view product details, or add them to your cart in an instant. Need to approve a quote or pay a bill? You can do it right from your phone. Track your orders, view invoices, even redeem your partner's program points for rewards that give back to your business. Plan smarter with built-in project calculators that save time and help you quote with confidence. Logging in is quick and secure. Use Face ID or Touch ID for instant access. Customize your experience by choosing your preferred language in English or Spanish. Looking to level up your knowledge? Browse, learn, and explore videos and articles, or find local events to stay connected with your SiteOne community. The SiteOne mobile app puts the power of your business in your pocket.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. I'm Rob Sterling with the wonderful Toro Malali, and we have a special guest on. He's a friend. Can't get to meet lots of people in this industry that you get close with, and this gentleman's a really nice guy. He, Tara, just so you know, has a wild wife, a woman of water. She's with an agency, and he'll tell you that all about it. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Ed Matthew. Ed, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on. Did you mention, I didn't quite hear that, but did you mention that I have a significant other that's also in the water industry?
Yeah.
I believe he did.
Yes, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind. So Stephanie Dewar, who's been on your show, I believe, Rob, is with Salt Lake City Public Utilities. And she's the water conservation coordinator. She's been there 20, 25 years. She's very knowledgeable, looks at things a little bit differently. And you can only imagine the dinner table discussions that we have, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and she also asked me a lot, don't even bring it up. Don't mention it. I don't want to talk about it. So a lot of times we don't get to chat. But
that's okay. But you got some news for us. But since the last time you've been on, there's a lot of listeners that we have, and kind of started this off this way. Why don't you talk about and make known the name of the company and the product, and then go into a little bit of description about what it does and what you guys have been doing with it, because I find it to be a really fantastic idea and project and product that you're doing.
Yeah, and we've made, this is my fourth time on with you guys, and
right.
We've made great strides in getting the information out, and some of the projects that we've done with this technology and is been amazing. So we're still working at trying to get traction across the board, but the projects that we have done, worked with, results, studies, everything is pointing this into the direction of exactly what we need as far as moving forward. As you know, my background is irrigation. I've been a contractor. I've been in distribution sales, rep sales, helped start a company called Baseline, as you guys may know. It's a soil moisture sensor company. And then we've worked with Toro on different projects over the years. And then I moved, somewhat retired, but then took on this I would call it a quest to make sure that people understand that this technology, which is basically magnetically influencing water, the results that we get and what we see in water savings and production is something that cannot be done without the technology. So when we look at precision irrigation, we find that we can't really get there from the tools that we're using right now. Sure, we can improve what we're doing, but if you want to start knocking 20, 30, 40, and 50% of water use down, you've got to address water itself, its physical structure. And what utilizing magnetic influenced water by running a water through a very directed and high-powered magnet changes how the water behaves and performs. It's really quite amazing. So that's basically the overview. We have technology, very simple, that can be used at large commercial, agriculture, all the way down to 3/4-inch residential, that can save water, improve the quality, move away from softener need, the use of conventional softeners, and then essentially improve everybody's overall landscape health, soil health, even vegetable gardens do better.
So it changes. If I remember, I do remember correctly. But one of the things that fascinates to me is the progression that you guys have had, and the successful progression, which is great. Now, as you know, in my past, I played with magnets and water, and I found it to be pretty unique, where you can actually, when you treat it, I use some ceramic crystals along with magnets. And what it did I'll give you an example, to wine. My wife was always complaining, how come the wine that she likes costs $75 a bottle? And, people, she likes good wine. And some cake brand she drinks is cake bread, and it's a reserve wine, so they charge more for that. But anyway, what's unique about that, she said to me, well, you can go to Trader Joe's, they have this $3 chuck that they sell. Everybody used to make fun of that, and they still sell it. And sells for I think it's now $5 instead of $3. And so I made some experiments with what I did and found that it altered the molecular structure of the water and the wine, that it tasted different.
No doubt. There's no doubt. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm on a motorcycle trip around the West right now, and we stop by breweries and we see some. And one of the breweries that is using this technology is very pleased with the way that the beer is coming out. So not only are we addressing their water quality around the restaurant, but even the production and the quality of the beer itself has been enhanced. So we know it'll address wine, spirits, any type of alcohol, because the molecules, because they carry a charge, and this is where the irrigation industry really needs to raise the bar of education. What do they know about water? We don't know anything about water other than we know it's H2O. But H2O is actually part of the reason we're not doing as well as we are, because the structure of H2O, the charges of H2O are not very, what's called, excitable. So H2O is neutral. But once it runs through a magnet, it changes, and it becomes mostly negative. And now we've got water that wants to be active, it's more ordered, it flows better, we see increased distribution uniformity, we see easier flow, which means the pumps don't work nearly as hard, so we're able to save on energy. We see better infiltration, permeation, infiltration. The structured water becomes, let's call it, it's a higher surface tension, which would then kind of juxtaposes, or if we've got smoother and increased flow, you're going to think initially, well, we're going to lose our surface tension, but the reality is no. Surface tension goes up with this type of water, but we need that to get capillary rise in the soil from the studies that we've seen, and we mobilize the water much better. It holds in the soil much longer, and we are also then mobilizing nutrients much greater to the plant, which enhances the plant growth. So this is a whole different direction from horticulture, agronomics in general, that the industry needs to get their head around or learn, and then this will really start to raise the bar on overall efficiency and conservation when it comes to water.
So what's the biggest case study that you have where you've seen the most change? Because I feel like this is one of those things where a lot of people are going to have like a small amount of improvement, but I'm guessing that in order to really showcase this, there has been one or a few that were really dramatically different.
Absolutely. So on the agricultural side, we have the largest winery in Northern California that has shown tremendous water savings, increase in yields, improved profits, reduction in power. Then we've got a 10-year study with a dairy in Idaho. The dairy was supposed to relocate because the soil health had gotten so bad they weren't able to grow silage, quality silage. Once we put the magnets in on the pivots, everything changed. They doubled their alfalfa, dropped their water use. Animals got healthier, and that's a whole other side of this, how it benefits animals alike. And then studies that we've seen come out of the University of Washington, which talk more of the science. So we've had to connect a lot of dots when it comes to the science, but then we've seen it in the field. So we've been able to validate what the science has been saying. A lot of the studies are coming from overseas. Germany, Russia, China, Israel, even Hungary has put out some of the two newest studies that, one, call this technology a climate change reduction technology and what's going to help save agriculture. They also pointed to what exactly the plant sees when the water is, the treated water, magnetically treated water is engaged, and why the plants grow more and what's happening there. And essentially, in a nutshell, it's at a DNA level, and that the cells are dividing faster. So we get an increased growth because it allows cells in the plant to divide quicker. And that's the study.
So when you're talking about these massive improvements, what generally is the return on investment in something like this? Because I'm imagining that the investment is not small. So what kinds of support, or maybe it is small, who knows? You're going to tell me.
No, it's actually, this is what's kind of mind-boggling. It's very quick. And when I say that, residential person would purchase a unit between $100 and $200 or $300. Commercially, they're going to spend $2,000 to $4,000 or $5,000, depending on how big the main line is. Agriculture uses larger pipes, right? So they're going to have more of a $15,000 investment but if you have any idea what they're spending in just power alone, and we're able to knock their water use by 20, 30%, it's paid for in the first couple weeks, depending on, obviously, their power consumption. Then they'll get increased benefit with their yields and even their reduction in fertilizers, because so much fertilizer gets locked up in the soil, as we know. We're able to release that with this new structured water, and it mobilizes to the plant. And along with this increased cellular growth, we see phenomenal yields.
So when in the consumer world, it basically connects to the incoming water pipe. Is that correct? For the whole house?
Right. The way it is right now, all we really need to do, it's about the size of a coupling, and there's that would go in the main line. It go into somebody's home, as I mentioned, and be like a softener. It's not quite the same as softening, but it's a conditioner. And then as it goes into the landscape, depending on how your system's set up, you just want to get the treated water into the landscape, especially with drip. It'll help keep the drip systems clean because it is a descaling device. And then as we're moving forward, I have a unit and waiting for patent right now. And the idea here is we're going to incorporate this smaller, high-powered unit that we have in this patent into water meters, potentially. And then water agencies can not only suggest that people utilize this, but they can specify that type of meter that could now go in place of the standard meters, and people then would be getting a higher quality water into their residence. They'd get automatic softening. They'd get automatic savings in water in their landscape, improved landscape health, better veggie gardens, and it would all be incorporated in the meter from the city provider.
Has any test been validated for using it for drinking?
Oh yeah, we just have to make sure.
I know people don't like the salt that you got to put in, and that's going to heavy. And, so go ahead.
So Rob, if you think back to the study out of the University of Washington with Dr. Pollack, and how he concluded that magnetic water induces and creates exclusion zone water or restructured water, that's a healthier water, right? So he's proven, he's tested, and we've seen it in our work that this water is a healthier water. And part of the reason that our wine and beer taste so much better is because it's smoother. So we are aligning the molecules in such a way that it just makes the water, people call it wetter. But essentially, as long as the product is NSF, then it can be used for drinking water.
So, as I told you before, we had Dr. Pollack on, and he was amazing telling us about that. And then I think I told you about the other company called Relief Signal Patch that picked up on that. And they're selling those like crazy, and it gets rid of pain. It actually reacts to presents a positive charge. Yeah, and those things are sort of like rocket ships. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I always thought magnets had a lot to play with our health, especially in machines that people have tennis elbows, for example, and you could, if you put your elbow or your arm into this, I saw a machine that somebody built with magnets, and it helped to relieve the pain. Is there, and I'm sorry, this kind of guy, I don't know if you can answer the question or allowed to answer the question. Is there a specific type magnet that you use?
Well, we use a rare earth, high-powered, and depending on the product, it's a little bit different. But it's the way that they're structured or assembled and then directed. But essentially, it's nothing, I would say, overly special that would be hard for it to be duplicated, so to speak. But we've worked so many different types of layouts on it that we feel we really have it nailed. And with the results that we're seeing, most people are agreeing with that. Because people have been utilizing this technology for a while. I know there's people out there listening right now going, yeah, we've heard this before. But I am a almost 50-year vet of the irrigation industry. I've seen everything come along. I've helped with drip irrigation and sensors and ET. I get all that, but there's holes in that. And what I mean by that is it's not perfect. And what was creating some of those irregularities in the technology is that we weren't addressing the water quality itself. Nowhere in any of our setup with a smart controller does it say water quality, water type, or anything like that. So not only does the mineral makeup make sense that we have to know more of, but the structure of the water itself, going from an H2O to an H3O2, which is what Dr. Pollack has shown us, right? So that is really important for us to get to the next level of efficiency, is people need to understand water, their soil much better, and how water can be manipulated to behave differently and create a higher performance.
So what about
getting right now?
I don't mean to hog the conversation. I'm going to let Tara get in, but
he doesn't need to hog it. He just will do so anyway. It's accidental hogging.
Well, Tara, I know you're really going to like this. Once you get your head around it and understand it, because I'm sure Rob and Chris have talked to you about this before. I'm sure they have. But this is really the next big thing, and as you guys were talking earlier, what are the tools? What do we have? What's coming, right? And that's a big question mark in the industry, especially the irrigation industry. What's coming? Well, this is coming, and I can tell you, once you understand it, once people see it, get their head around it, use it, they'll see exactly why I'm especially excited that, and others are now too, some of our users and whatnot, universities and some others, are really going to get behind this.
Well, if you take your models for agriculture, and you incorporate this on the main line, what happens when, because a lot of those people use fertigation to also send out things to the vegetation or the crops. How does that affect those products that are added in line to that?
Well, we've had a lot done with inline fertigation. We improve the fertigation's ability to be absorbed by the plant, which then allows the user to cut back his need or normal dosing. The other thing I'd like to point out is that we're cutting back on the power, but yes, the fertilizer need is dropping, and they mostly see in the first 2 or 3 seasons a major drop in nutrient need because, as I mentioned earlier, so much fertilizer and nutrient is locked in the soil, and people don't know it, and they can't get to it. But once you start working with this water, I'd like to point out that it's similar to rain. So if you know how, or you've seen rain in your yard or in your fields or whatever, and you notice that the rainwater reacts differently, essentially that's what we're doing. We're creating rainwater. So now you can see why this water would be different than normal irrigation water. And I'd like to point out equipment stays cleaner, and we have many projects where filtration systems, especially agriculture, we're giving owners grief on the self-cleaning screen filters and even the lifespan of some of the sand medias. With this water, everything is improved. We cut the flushing down on the sand or on the screen filters, and we've improved the life of the sand medias.
And you use stainless steel for the filters?
Well, we and our devices that we install in the systems, they're 316 stainless. Yeah.
Okay, so like companies like Mott or somebody who makes those, and how is serviceability to these things from the small home residential to the big commercial dairy product?
Great question, Rob. There's none. You don't do anything. We do on the larger ones suggest people pull them out and look at them every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on your water quality. If you see any buildup or anything, you wipe it off and throw it back in. The magnets don't really ever lose power.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, we've got some pretty amazing projects going on right now. The one in Northern California was something, and we have a few more coming. And then a couple universities are getting involved, and it's slowly churning, but we're getting the attention, and soon, I believe, if we can get it in the legislature, it needs to be regulated. And once it gets regulated, then it'll take off.
Is it easier for your company to do it? I know you're all over the world with testing and things like that. Do you see more of acceptance in any particular region of the world?
Essentially, most of this technology has been utilized for the last 30, 40 years overseas. And that's why the studies are over there. And then they're trickling over here. And since there's more of a demand now, and we have a relationship with some of the research people that are overseas, we just know, and I'm focusing mostly on the West, that we have to get this in the people's hands. We just have to, especially with the issues with water, cost of fertilizers, power, everything that you guys have been talking about for years, and I've been associated with myself. Why I really believe that this is something people need to look at and understand and utilize.
Okay, so I'm going to just bust in here.
I'm yielding. I'm making it known I'm yielding to you now.
I'm waiting, Tamara. I'm waiting.
Okay, fabulous. So what's the benefit of the magnetic style of creating structured water over like vortexing or the electromagnetic version or the sunlight, UV? Like, why go this route?
It's very simple. There's no parts and pieces, nothing mechanical, no power. So as long as you can build a magnetic field, as you mentioned, magnetic field, you're going to see results. But our system basically uses very strong magnets, either 2 or many. And I feel that it's the best way to go because there's really no maintenance. I have customers literally that forget they have it. And if I go and visit them or place a call or send an email, they're like, oh, yeah, everything's fine. Not something they have to worry about any longer. They've solved what they considered to be a water quality issue or maybe, as I mentioned, animals. Animals are suffering from a lot of the intake they're getting from their water source, their water feed. And once they get this water into their water feed, they change. Their health changes. They're better hydrated. Cows produce better milk, more protein. Also, fat goes up. Goats, pigs. We have ranchers that are having phenomenal success. I've got a very large calf not processing, but a calf where they bring them in and then they take care of them for a while. And they have like 5,000 of them or something up in Idaho, and they utilize this water to the calf. So, yeah, it's a big deal. But to answer your question, I know others have worked but I also know the old KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. And this is an extremely simple process.
I believe in KISS for sure.
Well, as you said, it's for agricultural, helps be more liquid, I'll use that term, or more fluid going into the ground. It goes faster into the ground. Does your system, since you're utilizing a very large, powerful type magnet, do you notice any temperature rise of the water?
Well, when it's used in water that gets boiled, the boiling occurs faster. And if it's used indoors, people have written comments back to us, that type of thing, that have said they've noticed that the water's hotter coming out of the hot water heater and such. So we don't see a rise just in itself, but we know if there is a need for water to be heated or boiled, that there is an advantage there.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. Like I said, I dabbled in that, as I told you many years ago, with the wine thing, and it was very interesting to me because I see people trying to advertise products, for example, in the wine business. You buy the special decanter and let it breathe, and what I don't understand is people say, wine is like a painting to me. You either like it or you don't like it, and it's a matter of taste. So leave it at that. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and we got to say goodbye. We have to turn it over to NBC. They're the owners and the masters of the radio world. But really quickly, how can anybody get information about your product?
Well, if anybody can still hear, I can be reached at info@overlanddistributing.com or website www.odc-solutions.com, or I'm sure, Rob, you can lead them to us and we can go from there.
Excellent. Well, Ed, thank you again for joining us today. We're always following what you guys are doing because you're doing more and more things every day and getting better at it. And the world needs to hear there's something out there that can help. So we appreciate that very much. Ed, say hi to your lovely wife for me. And,
okay, I will. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, bye now.
All right, so sorry we learned some things today.
I did. I learned a little bit more about structured water.
And we used your magnetic personality to make the show good. So we
Aww.
Well, you have a good
Rob,
evening.
you'll always be a star to me.
Oh, thank you. I was born one. What can I tell you? It wasn't my decision. It was my parents. Anyway, you have a great weekend. Be safe and stay dry. And for our listeners, if you like green, you've got to take care of blue. Good night, everybody.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
Let's start in the association. Thunder knocked off the Clippers 128-110 to clinch the NBA's best regular season record. We'll have home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dropped in 20, talks about clinching the best record.
Like repeating something and doing it again is always a little bit harder. It's a little more challenging. The league gets better. Players get better. We always say at the beginning of the season, like no matter what happened, we have to earn what we get in making the playoffs in our seeding, and we earned first overall seed.
Nuggets crushed the Grizzlies 136-119 for their 10th straight win. Cade Cunningham back after missing 11 games with a collapsed lung, scored 13 points in 26 minutes in the Pistons' win over the Bucks. Braves pitcher Ronaldo Lopez and Angels DH Jorge Soler both suspended 7 games following their benches clearing brawl in the game Tuesday. Both players appealing the suspension. Braves did beat the Angels 8-2. Rory McIlroy looking to defend his crown at the Masters from Augusta National. That's sports. I'm Ronza Moss.
KCAA. This segment sponsored by Assured Shutters Inc. of Mentone. Tax refunds are right around the corner, and if you're expecting some money back, you might think about using some of those funds for a dramatic, impressive home improvement that adds a measurable investment to your home. Assured customers use words like beautiful, affordable, and practical. They're locally made, handcrafted, and custom designed. Assured Shutters Inc. can make your living space impressive and comfortable, adding the right amount of style, light, and privacy to your home. Money well spent. At Assured Shutters, there's no middleman. They offer a free, no-pressure in-home estimate. Save hundreds of dollars by going directly to AssuredShuttersInc.com or just Google Assured Shutters Inc. Serving Southern California for over 20 years. Their product is guaranteed for a decade. You can call 909-794-6008. That's 909-794-6008. Or catch them on their Facebook page, Assured Shutters Inc. of Mentone.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
When you're in Colton or Fontana, don't miss the great local food stylings of Alexis Cafe. Open every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Discover 30 years of bringing our community the vibrant flavors of Mexico. In Colton, they're at 115 North Mount Vernon Avenue, just down the street from San Bernardino Valley College. When you go, tell them you heard on this radio station and say muchos gracias. You can find them online at AlexisCafeMexicanGrill.com. That's AlexisCafeMexicanGrill.com.
This is KCAA.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Well, no genocide. It was Taco Tuesday. Trump did, fortunately, I'm not knocking it. He did chicken out, though. He did bail, and that's a good thing, because I don't think we want to be part of, well, the eternal history of the planet, that you went and tried to kill 90 million people. I know. Now, the weird thing is, and again, this is who we're talking about, Defense Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, was talking to reporters, and he said, well, God deserves all the glory. Tens of thousands of strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. A massive effort with miraculous protection. God is good. And my mind went into this weird spot because you listen to the right-wingers when they hear the God is good thing from Muslims, they lose their ever-loving flippin' minds. But we've got our war secretary. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And the weird thing is, and it's not weird, the Republicans have been completely silent. Understand, the complete about-face by Trump and the administration, and fortunately, going from, we're going to annihilate Iran, to, well, a ceasefire brokered by Pakistan? And then you look at the conversation that went on with reporters with our Joint Chief Chairman, Dan Kane, and Pete Hegseth. Hegseth seemed to kind of Move on. Past tense. Everything's, well, we're pretty much done. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking this is the